Hey gang, it's Wednesday, January 11th, 2017, and I know I haven't posted a video on the 68 Mustang Coupe in a while, and part of that's been cold weather and I've had other things to work on, but I thought I'd show you where I'm at this point. As you know, if you've seen the videos on this car, I've done the floor pans, the front sheet metal, I put in all new suspension, I did a video on the taking the spool out of the Ford 9-inch that's underneath it, and a variety of things that I've worked on this car. Also, I'm converting it to power steering, power brakes, and putting in a vintage air kit. This car did have factory AC, but I want a modern kit in it so it's much more usable. So if you've seen those videos, you know kind of what's going on and where it's at. Let me just show you what I'm working on and other things that I've done. I think I mentioned in my previous video that I did finish up the brakes. They've been bled and there's no leaks, so I'm very happy with that. And then I've installed wiring, the front harness in place. I have put on the solenoid, and I got a new voltage regulator. I also had to replace, had to buy a new alternator or a rebuilt alternator. Water pumps on, all those sort of things. I have a distributor in it, and at this time it's just a points distributor. I may look at a Petronics kit later on, I'm not sure yet. And I did mount the Edelbrock 600, and I still have to do a little bit of work on it. I've been working on the throttle linkage. This rod, the original rod, will work, but I believe I'll have to probably drill a hole in the end of it and put a washer on it so that I can use it and attach it. The original setup would have had this little clip, and I can't get it to go around the linkage on the carburetor, so I'll just have to modify some things. I am getting ready as soon as I can to start this thing up, and so with that I've put some oil in it, and I've also put in some Lucas TB Zinc Plus, so that's designed for engine break-in, and I will be, obviously have that in there. What else is going on? I've started routing, and this is where I kind of got to a stumbling block. I started routing the power steering hoses. As you can see, there's a pressure hose, and from what I've seen, I don't know if I had the actual instructions, but from what I understand, this is the pressure port inboard, let's say, and then the return is the outboard one. It's more towards the rag joint. So I figured while I was doing this, I would start mounting the AC compressor, because things have to interact, and if I have a problem, I need to solve it now. So what I've done is I did mount just a loose mount of the AC compressor, and the bracket is designed from Vintage Air. Of course, this is a Vintage Air kit, and I really like it. It's got these tubing here, it's heavy duty tubing. It actually goes through the bracket in this portion of it, and it mates, let's say, or butts against it on this side. So you have three of these. There's one down there, and then one further up. You can see there's the 3 bolts, and that does a good job of locating the AC compressor. However, I also have to mount the power steering at the same location. So I'm going to show you what the problem is with that in just a minute. The other thing I've got a 2-groove pulley on the water pump, and I'm going to use that. It lines up, actually, the forward groove lines up with the rear groove on the AC compressor, and then the rear lines up with the alternator, and I'll show you what it does with the power steering. So I have mentioned in a previous video, I think, when I first put this balancer on, the first one I bought was a 3-bolt balancer, which would have been more correct for this car. But I had 2 sets, or 2 pulleys that were 4-bolt. Well, pulleys aren't cheap, and I decided, well, let's see if I can just exchange that one I have and put in a 4-bolt pulley. So that's what I did. I sent that back, and I got a 4-bolt. Well, it turns out that was also a bad idea. For me, anyway. This pulley is too big. It interferes with the water pump. that won't work. And by comparison, this one's even, I think it's, yeah, it's the same dimension. So guess what? I still had to buy a pulley. So yesterday, I went down to Summit and I picked up this March Performance pulley. Now this part number, if you can read it, is 1535. And there's another one, I think it's 1631. I think it's the other number. The difference being the spacing between the pulleys. This one is very similar to what I have on the water pump. The other one, it's fatter between the pulleys, so that wouldn't work. So I'll get this in place, and then I'll show you a couple things as to what I'm doing with the power steering. Alright, I have this March Performance pulley in place. You can see I've got about, I don't know, 5/8, 3/4 of a gap between that and the power steering, or the water pump pulley. But it's spot on. It lines up right on the money, and that's going to work out for all of what I'm doing right here. Now, let me show you what I was talking about with the power steering. The kit is from Borgeson, and I like it. It's a pretty good setup. And this kit comes with a bracket already built and attached to the pump. Now with that, it comes with a series of bolts and spacers. And I'll just show you that in just a second. Here's all the variety of bolts, 2 different sizes. This one takes a 9/16 head. This one takes a 5/8, whatever those are. I don't remember. This is like 3/8 and half. Anyway, whatever that size is, I can't think of it at the moment. And it also comes with these different spacers. Now, with my configuration, if I didn't have the AC bracket, I would have been able to use the long spacer, and basically it would go right here on the same location as this one for the AC compressor. And that would give me 2 good solid mounts for the power steering pump. Well, obviously I have a problem because I have to mount the AC bracket there. So what I'm going to do, and I'll show you if you can see it, this in place isn't going to line up with the pulleys. Let's say if I had it in where it was designed to go, it would be fine. And I'm still going to put it there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bracket off, take these 2 tubes, or these pipes as acting as spacers. I will cut those, and then I will fit the power steering bracket between. So I'll end up with one length of spacer, the bracket, and the other length of spacer, and then of course the assembly will be held in as normal with these 2 bolts. And then the 3rd bolt that's on the inside towards the water pump, I'll leave it the length that it is, so it won't hurt anything. I think that's going to solve my problems and get me in place with the power steering pump. So let me get started on that and see if I can't get that in place. So I hope I can show you this and it'll make sense. I took the AC compressor out of the way, and I removed one of those spacers. You can see it's nice and thick. And then I took a fan belt that I had, and it won't be the one I use, but it's just used as a reference to get some spacing. And basically, I'm lining up the belts, or the belt, across all 4 of the pulleys that I'm going to be using. And when I get it in where I feel comfortable and it looks like it's going to plane out very close, I put a mark on the spacer that I have that's still remaining. Now that gives me a good rough distance. Now I don't want to cut this in a way that's my only time that I have any adjustment, because if I do make a mistake and I've already cut it say one way or the other, and I need to change something, I'm going to have to come up with another spacer or do something else. So really what I'm going to do is take that spacer and cut it just a little bit shorter. and that'll put this bracket a little more aft. But this bracket has bolts in it that go directly into the body of the pump. By moving this bracket to the rear, if I need to, I can add spacers between this pump and shim it exactly where I want it, and then I'll be happy with, with the end result. Because if I try to do that with the AC bracket, I would be taking that thing on and off and on and off, and it would be just a pain. And it would be a lot easier to use the pump bracket. Now the other part of that is this nice beefy bracket is going to interfere with my power steer or my fuel pump. If you'll notice, it kind of lines this part, the back side of this bracket is right above it, and if I put this in the location where it's going to go end up, I think it's going to hit. I don't know for sure. I'll have to find out when I get to that point, but if it does, I'll just have to notch this bracket. It won't hurt it. This thing's huge, very strong. So I'll figure that out when I get to it. But at this point, what I'll do, I've already got a mark on this pipe, or this spacer, and so I'll take this apart, cut that, and then cut this one to match, and that'll give me the short drop. And then I'll remove enough thickness from the remaining of this forward spacer to take up the gap for the thickness of the bracket on the power steering pump. Hope that makes sense. Alright, so I have my measurement on my first pipe, or first spacer, and I have my second spacer that I will be cutting as well. So what I've done is I've put them together in my chop saw, and I used a straight edge to match them up and make sure they're the same location. And now I'm going to cut that off, and I'm going to put on safety glasses and of course hearing protection. Gotta take care of yourselves. Now I'll just clean up those two pieces and double check my gap, and I should be good to go on those. Alright, so what I've done is I've removed the bracket for the AC compressor, and I've mounted the power steering unit, or pump, and these are the new pieces I just cut off of the longer pieces of spacer. If you notice, this is the one I haven't cut, obviously, and you can see the difference there. Now, what I'm seeing is, and I actually like what I'm seeing, because the belt is deflected slightly back, just a little bit, and that's fine, because now I'm comfortable with shimming it a little bit forward and making up for that distance. If I cut it right on the money, or what I thought was right on the money, and then I messed it up, I'd be having problems. So I think that makes sense, and that'll take care of the power steering pump. Now, on the other side of that, what I have to do is cut off enough material from these remaining pieces, which is basically going to be about that thickness, so that it matches the length of this piece right here. So I'll draw some lines on this and make sure my measurements are right, and then I will cut off that material from these two pieces, and that should take care of the AC bracket and everything all together. And then what I'll do is I'll paint all these pieces, get them black, and you're probably not going to like to hear this, but I don't want this pulley, this March pulley, I don't want it shiny. It's not going to match. I've got a black pulley here, so I'm going to scuff this up, put some black paint on it so it blends in. I mean, I like it, but I'm not going to, it just looks odd to me to have that sticking out and being shiny. So let me get some measurements and start cutting. Alright, so I think I've made my final cuts, and this is the original spacer, and what I had to do was add some thick washer on the end here, because without the AC bracket in place the bolts are too long. But that worked out well, because it gave me a dimension that I could work with from the block to the back side of this washer, and that's exactly the same. So I'll just verify that with the other spacer that I cut already, and that should take care of this assembly. The other thing I'll point out is this bracket will clear the fuel pump, so I don't have to worry about that. And I think that should be it. So I'll get this stuff cleaned up and painted, and see if I can't get it assembled. Well, it's been a good day. As you can see, hopefully see, I did get the power steering pump mounted. Everything worked out good on that. I did a check on all the belts and alignments, and they're going to be fine, but I need to get a new belt. The belt that I had is just not quite long enough to do my adjustments. AC compressor is mounted. Got the fan on. All the pulleys are in place. Alternator's mounted. Spark plug wires. Everything's hooked up. And I have actually had it running just briefly. And so let me go ahead and start it up. And I'm not doing it for a long period of time. It's not ready to be it's not broken in yet, but it's pretty exciting just to hear it run. At least it is for me, and I'm sure it is for some of you that follow along. Definitely need to get some exhaust on it. So at this point, I'm just going to end this video, and there'll be more to follow as I get more involved with getting the AC all hooked up, and of course getting it back all together so it can be drivable. That's it for now. Hope you like it. Thanks for watching.